Good evening and welcome once again to another program of Issues in the News, where we discuss the important events that would have taken place in our country over the past week or so. And as is the norm, we always have a packed agenda of issues to discuss. I want to welcome each and every one of you, in particular, those of you who are joining us on television from West Coast Berbice. Welcome to another program of Issues in the News. To those of you who are joining us on television in Region 6 along the east bank of the Berbice River, New Amsterdam, Kanji, and along the Quarantine Coast, welcome once again to another program of Issues in the News. To our listeners and viewers who are joining us on Freedom Radio from Rob Street, Georgetown, welcome to another program of Issues in the News. And last but not least, to the tens of thousands of you who are joining us on Facebook Live across Guyana, the Caribbean, North America, Europe, Asia, and further afield, welcome once again to another program of Issues in the News. And please share this program with all your friends and your followers so that we can have the widest possible audience. Share the program by pressing that share button on your phone, on your computer, on your iPad, on your tablet, or whatever instrument you are using to view this program. Share it so that we have as many people as possible. I see many of you have joined: Anjali Ramja, Kiran Rama, Vikram Rampertab, Soma Bipat, Nishad Sharma, Shakila Jaggernaut, John Hughes, Chitra Sukraj. All of you, good evening and welcome to another program of Issues in the News. Again, I appeal to you to ensure that you share the program so that as many people as possible join us in tonight's discussion. So yesterday we had the extraordinary sitting of our National Assembly to debate the motion reaffirming recognition of the 1899 Arbitral Award and the 1966 Geneva Agreement in relation to our border controversy with Venezuela. It was, I believe, a great debate. It was conducted in the main and largely in the spirit and in the atmosphere that we agreed to, meaning the opposition and the government. We agreed that this is a matter upon which we must unite, that this is a matter upon which we must speak with one voice, as there is no Guyanese who holds a different view. All of us hold the unshakable and uncompromising view that we must not cede a single inch of our territory to Venezuela, that Venezuela's claim is spurious, is frivolous, and is vexatious. And we decided as leaders and representatives of the people of our country to go to the National Assembly and in a chorus to unanimously state our position, while at the same time informing the Guyanese population, both here and abroad, of the historical evolution of this matter, the legal issues involved, and all the material facts and circumstances relevant to this controversy. And I believe we did a commendable job as a collective in articulating our views and reciting the important legal and factual issues, and of course the historical evolution of this entire issue. I urge every single Guyanese to listen to the presentations made. I believe they were highly informative, highly educational, and the amount of information disseminated out there was very, very voluminous. And I urge us to listen to those speeches so that we can acquaint ourselves, if we have not already, with all the facts relevant to this matter. If I may summarize it for the purpose of this program, it was Venezuela that initiated a complaint at that time to the United States of America, complaining that Great Britain is occupying certain of its territory. Venezuela had just gotten independence from Spain, and Guyana, of course, was British Guyana and was a colony of Great Britain. America at that time was building its own hegemony in this hemisphere. So Venezuela went to the US, and the US took up the claim of Venezuela and confronted the British. And then this Treaty of Washington was signed. And out of the Treaty of Washington, the arbitration tribunal was established to adjudicate upon the matter. Like every arbitration, the parties to the arbitration agreed to be bound by the outcome of the arbitration. Venezuela participated fully in choosing the persons to constitute this tribunal. You had 2 judges from the United States of America and 2 judges from the United Kingdom, and those judges chose the chairperson, who was a Russian judge. Venezuela was part and parcel of the process. And as I said, they signed that treaty that bound them to the outcome of the arbitration. And when the arbitration award was made, Venezuela celebrated it as a victory and demarcated boundaries in accordance with the award with Great Britain and with Brazil in 1905. It enacted in its laws that that's the territory of Venezuela based upon that declaration made by the arbitral award. Venezuela got a huge expanse of land, some, I believe, 7 times the size of Guyana. And that is why it celebrated a victory. And for 60 years, it acted in compliance with that award. And suddenly, when we were approaching independence, it shifted its position and claimed that the award was a nullity. And for the next 75 years, from 1962 to now, they have been given all the opportunities to show how the arbitral award is a nullity, and they have not been able to do so. They have not been able to do so. You cannot enter into a process, agree to bind yourself to the process, and bind yourself by the outcome of the process, and then actually bind yourself to it, act upon it for 60 years, take all the benefits from the award, and then suddenly you want to challenge the award. But you're not giving up your benefits. Venezuela at no point in time is saying, look, we're going to give back the territory that it got under the arbitral award. But it wants Guyana's territory. It wants what Guyana got. It simply doesn't make sense. And we all know about the aggression and the assertion of their claim, etc. And the Geneva Agreement was arrived at because we were approaching independence. And England decided, look, we'll put a final mechanism in place to resolve this thing in the future. And that Geneva Agreement vested the power to the United Nations Secretary General to determine if the parties can't agree on a mechanism for the resolution. And that's how we reached the International Court of Justice upon the recommendation of the United Nations Secretary General. All of that are stated in the many, many presentations from both the opposition and the government. So there is a large volume of information that is out there, and I would really, really encourage all Guyanese to acquaint themselves with the material facts. This is a matter that we should all be educated about. Venezuela, to their credit, has been teaching their distorted narrative in their schools for the past 60 years. Unfortunately, we have not done that. And one of the many calls that came out of the different speeches by the different parliamentarians ask for that greater education to be done, greater public awareness, so that Guyanese are also educated on this matter. And I believe that that is a solid call. I believe that that is a solid call. So we are united, and we have expressed that by a resolution of the National Assembly, which has several resolve clauses, and you should also acquaint yourselves with the resolution. We are all aware that on the 14th of this month, we have a hearing before the International Court of Justice, where we are seeking certain interim measures, specifically in relation to the impending referendum which the Maduro government plans to execute on the 3rd of December. I will be traveling to The Hague, the International Court of Justice, as part of Guyana's delegation. Of course, our lawyers, who are located in different countries, will meet up at The Hague, and the application will be argued for the measures that we are seeking. So we ask that every Guyanese be vigilant, every Guyanese be conscious of the importance of this situation, and we ask for responsible conduct. We don't want provocation. We don't want hysteria. We don't want to create any basis that would give Venezuela an added edge, for want of a better phrase. Because backed in a corner as they are desperate. And when desperation steps in, desperate actions can result. So that's why we are asking for vigilance, but calm. I want to take this opportunity to salute our armed forces who have done a remarkable job in protecting, monitoring, and preserving peace, protecting our borders, preserving law and order in those areas. I want to salute our Foreign Service officers who have been doing an excellent job on this matter. And I want to salute our lawyers who are working assiduously in representing our legal interest. And I want to recognize the efforts of all the persons, many outstanding Guyanese over several decades, have worked fervently in ensuring that our sovereignty and territorial integrity is not compromised. The law is on our side. Diplomacy is on our side. The world is on our side. Justice and peace are on our side. And lastly, I want to take this opportunity to thank all the persons and organizations across the globe who and that have expressed support and solidarity with us on this very important issue, on this very important occasion. We need as much support as possible. So I will close on that issue for the time being because a lot have been said. I don't wish to rehash matters so elaborately addressed and articulated in that sitting of the National Assembly. All parliamentarians' speeches were carried live by most of the media outlets in the country, including the state-owned media. They were carried on almost every minister's Facebook page. They are on my Facebook page. My presentation itself is also there, both as part of the collective and separately. I tried in my presentation to highlight what I considered to be the salient legal and factual issues, and I emphasized what I believe needed emphasis. So you can go there and look at my presentation. It has a lot of information, and of course, as I said, many of the speakers who made their presentations were also very, very informative and provided a great volume of information on the matter. I see Joycelyn, Bishop Hussein, and all these are frequent viewers, and she's saying, U.S. ambassador knows the situation, we accepted them in good faith. Well, I don't understand the point that you're making, but yes, the U.S. Ambassador was in the National Assembly, as were many other ambassadors and public servants. Also, we had a number of students from our secondary schools present as well. So let me deal with a question that I see right now. But before I deal with that, let me invite you again or remind you to share the live. Please share the program so that many of your viewers, many of your followers and friends can join us in tonight's discourse. I see Pam Singh is saying that Minister Todd made a wonderful presentation. Of course, Minister Todd did a very, very scholarly presentation reciting in great details the factual narrative as we understand it. Nishad Sharma is saying, AG, can we expect another joint session on this issue prior to or after the referendum? Let's wait and see. Let's wait and see. We are prepared to do everything possible and necessary to protect our territory. So having another sitting of the National Assembly ought not to be a matter of great debate if that's necessary. So let's wait and see. So as I was going through the newspapers today, I saw the Guyana Revenue Authority has issued an advisory informing the public that the deadline for the voluntary registration of e-motorcycle has been extended to December the 29th, 2023. Recall, we passed this law since I believe June or July of this year. I believe it's June. And a lot of people complain. The complaint was that they didn't have sufficient time and notification that we are going to amend the law to require the registration of these electric cycles. We heeded that public cry and that public outcry. And we asked the Guyana Revenue Authority and the Guyana Police Force to stand down in terms of enforcing the provisions of that amendment of the Road Traffic Act. Well, and we asked them to do so for 6 months. That period is now coming to an end. It means that after the deadline of December 29, 2023, the law will be enforced, and persons who have failed to register their e-motorcycle over the past 6 months will have to face the consequences of violating the law. We have been very reasonable. 6 months we forbear executing and enforcing the law to allow persons right across the country sufficient time, as they claim they did not have enough time, to ensure that they get their e-cycles registered. Please comply with the deadline. You can get the registration done at any GRA office countrywide. In areas where there are no GRA offices, GRA has promised to set up places where the registration will be done. And I am told that those places are up and running. The cost for registration is minimal, just $750. So cost can be part of your complaint anymore. It's only $750. But you have to be registered if you wish to use the public roadway by a device with wheels, etc. I've put out there the reason and rationale for this law many times. It was not supposed to be controversial, but it turned out to be. But we have listened to the public appeals and we have suspended the enforcement of the law for 6 months. That 6 months now is coming to an end, so I hope that we will have compliance, because if we don't have compliance, we'll have problems. Some time ago, a few months ago, we drafted a border patrol bill. A border patrol bill. This bill is intended to create a framework for officers to be appointed and who will perform specific functions in relation to protecting, monitoring, guarding, and patrolling our borders. This bill was drafted even before this referendum and before the heightened provocative actions of Venezuela. I believe the bill has now assumed paramount importance. So this is one of the bills that we will be taking to the National Assembly very shortly, the Border Patrol Bill. Is to create a body of persons who will specifically be responsible for border patrol and border protection and border monitoring. Of course, they will be working in tandem with the Guyana Defense Force, the Guyana Police Force, etc. It's an additional mechanism to bolster our ability and capacity to protect our territorial integrity, in particular in the areas of our vast borders. This is a bill that should have been, a law that should have been enacted a long time now, because our borders are very, very long and very, very hard, difficult to monitor and to patrol. So hopefully the Border Patrol Bill will provide the necessary human resource and other things necessary to ensure that we have adequate eyes and ears on the border, on the borders of our country. So It is public knowledge that 2 months ago, Guyana underwent a mutual assessment, an on site mutual assessment of its CFATF credentials, legislation, and administrative structures, regulatory framework, etc. This assessment was conducted by assessors appointed by the regional regulatory body, the Caribbean Financial Action Task Force. At the conclusion of the exercise, having examined a number of state agencies, government agencies, and certain members of the private sector, the assessors were required to do a report immediately upon the conclusion of their exercise, and they did so. And I had reported that Guyana scored favorably in that report after the assessment was concluded. I said then that under the protocols of CFATF, 6 weeks after the conclusion of the on-site assessment, a preliminary report will be prepared by the assessors and sent to Guyana. That preliminary report was received by us, and again, I'm to report that we scored reasonably well, and the assessment was favorable, but the protocols provide that we are to engage with the assessors in relation to the report, and we have an opportunity to add, to question, to interrogate, or to comment if we feel that some part of the report does not accurately reflect what the position as we understand it to be here in any one of the agencies that were examined in the assessment. So we are in the process of doing so. That process will be completed by the end of November, and then a final report will be issued. And that final report will be handed to us and will be reviewed at the next plenary of the CFATF, which is scheduled to take place in March. There is a plenary that is scheduled to take place at the end of November in Aruba. But of course, we can't make that one. So the one after that, which is in March, is the plenary that Guyana's final report will be reviewed, discussed, and debated at that plenary. Someone is asking me on the comments here about senior citizen pension book and what where they are being distributed. Now, if you check today's papers, I think if you checked yesterday papers and perhaps the day before, I'm not sure, you have about 3 or 4 pages of each of the newspapers enjoying national circulation, the daily newspapers enjoying national circulations. The Guyana Times, the Guyana Chronicle, Kaichor News, and Stabrook. 4. Sorry, I said 3 years now. 4 newspapers have about 3 or 4 full page notification. 3 or 4 pages of full page notification of the schedule where old age pension books or senior citizen pension books are and or will be distributed. Please familiarize yourself with where the centers are and ensure that you go there with your requisite ID documents to uplift your pension books. As a government, we have made it very clear that we are going to make these books accessible at convenient parts of the country, but accessible right across the length and breadth of the country. And government is spending millions of dollars in ensuring that these pension books meet to central and convenient points in localities and in villages across this country. Please take advantage of the exercise because it's a very, very expensive task for the government to send individual pension books hundreds of miles in the interior or up some river. And the government would be forced to do that because you have not taken advantage of the program of distribution. All the centers, as I said, are listed in the newspapers. I'm sure they are all also published elsewhere, but I just saw them in the newspapers. So please find out. There will be a center close to wherever you are living. Ensure that you go to that center. Ensure that you have your documents, your ID, or whatever documents are required, and uplift your pension books. Sometimes we do all of this and persons claim that they don't know. I don't know how else the government can make you be informed. I am sure that there are television ads. I am sure that there are radio ads. I am sure that there are ads on Facebook. But I know for a fact, as I just read them, there is a series of full-page newspaper notifications, several pages in the newspapers listing the various centers in the various regions across the country. When I was part of the presidential outreach in Berbice, we went to Mara, dozens of miles up the Berbice River, and persons were complaining that they didn't get their pension books. When we investigated the matter, they didn't turn up at the appropriate place, but nevertheless, the officers of the Ministry of Social Services went in and still couldn't locate the persons, and they had to come out back. So the persons were left without their pension books, and they were complaining, and understandably so. But this can be avoided. This can be avoided if the persons take advantage of the process that is currently ongoing. Now, there's an important thing that I would like to talk about, and it's execution sales. Now, execution sales is a method by which a person who obtains a judgment, a money judgment in particular, against another, enforces that judgment. So if you sue someone for money and they don't pay you, or you obtain a judgment in monetary form against a party in a case, and they don't pay that judgment, one of the things that you can do is to levy on their properties, and the properties will be sold at execution sale, and you get the proceeds of that sale in satisfaction of your judgment. The sale is conducted by the marshal of the High Court, or a marshal of the High Court. So it's a judicial exercise. If, for example, you take a mortgage and you do not pay your installments when they become due, the bank has the right to foreclose on that mortgage. What that means is that the bank takes you to court and asks the court to sell your property at execution sale for the sum of money owed under the mortgage or the loan. The loan is normally secured by a mortgage. Let me speak in technical terms. So you take a loan, the loan is secured by a mortgage. That mortgage is registered against your property as an encumbrance. You sign a loan agreement to say that if you don't pay the installments due under this loan at the time stipulated in that agreement, the bank can foreclose on that mortgage and sell your property. The bank does so by going before a judge and asks for an order to sell your property. The property is sold at execution sales. As I said, it's a judicial process. So, for the longest while, nearly going on to 2 years now, apparently there has been no execution sale by the marshals of the High Court because the judiciary felt that the current rules of court under which execution sales are conducted were deficient and needed some amendments. As a result, the execution sale process was suspended. Unfortunately, the amendments to the rules took an unusually long period. I am told that it is now completed and will soon be promulgated. Once it is promulgated, then I believe that execution sales will recommence. I know that the hiatus that has been created by not having execution sales have had an impact both on judgment creditors, meaning persons who have obtained judgment, as well as on the commercial sector, in particular the banking sector, because I suspect that the banks have many, many judgments. Many mortgages have been foreclosed, but they can't get their money because the properties cannot be sold. Well, that wait or that hiatus is hopefully coming to an end very shortly. I know that the requisite rules of court or proposed rules of court, the drafting of the amendments are now completed, and hopefully they will be brought into force very shortly, and execution sales will resume. So I thought that I will speak a little on that because a lot of the Bankers Association have raised it with me, the private sector commission has raised it with me, and persons, litigants who have obtained judgments, they meet you every day in the street and at different places, and they raise these matters with you. So I wish to give that update. So I'm looking, I see somebody wants me to address something there on the screen, but I'm not getting what it is. The comment gone already. I may have mentioned this before, but I want to reiterate that the advertisements for judicial officers by the Judicial Service Commission are out. They are published on the Supreme Court website. I believe they are also in the newspapers. They invite persons who wish to serve as puisne judges, meaning high court judges. They invite persons who wish to serve as magistrates. They invite persons who wish to serve as land court judges, or what is called commissioners of title. Hopefully applications are being made pursuant to those advertisements by duly qualified persons. And to the Burbicians in particular, I know that you have been asking me dozens of times, both in the diaspora and in Guyana, about when a judge of the land court will be appointed for Berbice. Berbice has been without a land court judge for close to 5 years now, and that's unacceptable. Well, that time is now coming to an end as commissioners of title and land court judges, vacancies for those posts have been advertised. I am told that land court judges or a land court judge will also be appointed for Essequibo or will be assigned to Essequibo specifically. So the litigants in Essequibo, your long wait also will come to an end shortly. So please, let me repeat, Berbice will be getting its land court judge and or commissioner of title very shortly. The advertisements are out. Hopefully, the Judicial Service Commission sees it fit to appoint a sufficient number, because there is a huge backlog of cases that would have accumulated over the past few years when there were no judges. In recognition of that fact, it is expected and hoped that an adequate number of land court judges would be assigned to Berbice so that they can deal with the backlog as well as deal with current matters that are being filed on a regular basis. It's only when you have a case in the system then you understand the impact that it has on people's lives. A lot of people who don't interact with the court system don't appreciate, first of all, the number of people who interact with the court system. Thousands of people, thousands, tens of thousands of Guyanese interact with the court system. They have cases pending. And when you have a case, in particular, a property case or a case involving land, it's families, not a family, families' lives are put on hold because their future is intricately and intimately tied up with that case and its outcome. A lot of non-lawyers do not appreciate that. Even litigants do not appreciate that unless they have such a case. When a person dies and all his properties are left in what is called an estate, it's a judge who now has to administer that, has to give an order to administer that estate. So all the properties that many, many children and many families may be entitled to, everything is put on hold until that judge makes that order. And when there is a delay, people's lives are simply stalled. Educational pursuits are stalled. Investments are stalled. Growth generally is stalled. Anyhow, these things have tremendous impact on the lives of people. So I'm hoping that we will have a number of applications so that we can fill the many vacancies in the High Court, the Magistracy, and in the Office of Commissioner of Title. We are already approaching program time. So, and I'm still awaiting for you to ask me these questions that you would like me to answer, but I'm seeing a lot of hand clap and flowers and thumbs up and so on. I thank you very much. And Pam Singh, let me respond to you to say I want to take this opportunity to extend Diwali greetings to all my Hindu brothers and sisters, first and foremost, as well as all Guyanese, as Diwali is a national festival. It's a Hindu festival of a national nature. It's celebrated by Hindus, but also by non-Hindus across Guyana and across the world. Sunday the 12th is Diwali. Is the day I believe that I will be leaving the country to travel. And I will not see you from now to then. So I take this opportunity to wish you a happy Diwali. May the power of light illuminate all the darkness and remove all the ills from your lives and replace it with prosperity, good health, wealth, and knowledge. So enjoy your Diwali, and thank you very much for spending the past hour or so with me. I may not see you next week, as I will be at the International Court of Justice, but you will hear from me from that court, and you will hear from me as well when I return. Thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of the week.